You launched your foundation last month. With that in mind, even for someone like you, with all you've achieved, how many setbacks, how many down days, how many disappointments along the way?
Yeah, I think over the course of my life and my career, for sure, there's been a lot of downs, a lot of ups. And I think going back to the early stage of my career, having to be patient, having to be on the bench, having to not be in the squads, yeah, it all gave me the mentality that I've got now, having to be ready for the opportunities, having to work hard in training, doing extra when no one else is around. And yeah, always, some people ask if you have regrets or things in your career, and I just say that everything kind of happens for a reason, whether it's something that's a low point is to make you tougher mentally, and obviously the high points you take in your stride. And yeah, overall for sure there's been some ups and definitely some downs in my career.
So when people talk about your strengths, I mean, normally, passing, finishing, actually, do you think mental strength is top of the list?
I think so. I think any elite athlete or athlete at the top of their game has to have an elite mentality, and that's more so in the moments when it's tough to be able to come through that and really trust yourself in those moments, because a lot of the time is when the pressure's high and you look at some players and they might not be able to play at their highest ability in those moments. And I think, in life, in sport, you're going to have setbacks, and I feel like my mentality has really got me to where I am now, and I feel like some players maybe or people can do it for a year or two, but to be able to do it for year on year is really a tough thing. And yeah, that's why I appreciate all the top athletes that are able to do it.
I mean, you were definitely told that, weren't you? I remember your first breakthrough season, 1 season wonder, you won't be able to do it. What are you now, 9 season wonder?
Yeah, and in a way I think that drove me to be even more consistent. And I think in our sport, in any sport, you're going to have fans who doubt you or people who doubt you. And
you listen to that? Shut it out? What's the best way to... Do you know what I mean? Can it be fuel or just shut it out?
I think you can use it. I think it's almost impossible nowadays to just shut it out. I think with social media and Sky Sports News and just everything that's on a daily basis, I think it's really hard to just completely shut it out. But I think for sure you can use it to your advantage, and I think you can use positive press to your advantage as well. I think the top players are able to not get too high or too low, but when things are going well, use the positive stuff as confidence and to push you forward, and use the negative stuff as fuel to get better and improve, and have a look at yourself and how you can get better, and that's what I try and do.
So there'll be kids every day being told, oh, you can't do that, you're not good enough for this. For them, really, as an 8-year-old boy, talk about what you went through.
Yeah, so I was released from Arsenal when I was 8 years old, and I mean, at that age, I remember my dad still telling me now that I was released from Arsenal, and I guess I didn't fully understand it. It was just at that age I was playing football for fun, and I just loved playing football. And
did it not feel a bit end of the world?
I wouldn't say end of the world. Of course, it was disappointing because it was probably my first bit of rejection, I guess, I had in my life. But I wouldn't say it was the end of the world. It was more okay. That was disappointing. But I think having good family around me as well, to be able to just say that we move on, we go on to the next thing. And at that stage was going back to my Sunday League club with J Rovers. And yeah, I think when you're that young, it's just okay. Let's just carry on playing football and see what happens. I don't think you're really thinking about it being a profession. I think it's obviously a dream and you'd love to do it, but you're not really thinking about what you're going to be doing when you're 18, 19. And yeah, so it was more just kind of, okay, let's keep working hard. My mindset from a young age was always just work as hard as anyone, work harder than the rest. And then as that developed, self-belief became a really important thing as I got a little bit older and started to understand it a little bit more and realise that, okay, I do want to do this as a profession. And then that's why I say the two most important things for me, any young boy or girl who wants to be successful is to work hard and have self-belief.
I suppose your mentality is being tested throughout, even as much as, I don't know, when you're sort of 14, 15, your mates start going out. That takes a certain kind of mental strength, doesn't it, to maybe park that and concentrate on your football?
Yeah, that's a real sacrifice that you have to make at that stage in your life. I played with some great players at school level, at academy level, who didn't quite get that part of their life right and got influenced into going out and having more of a social life. But I felt like I had to sacrifice that to really achieve what I wanted to achieve. And of course, looking back now, it's worth every moment. But it is an important part because it's easy to kind of you leave school when you get a scholarship, you start making money, and you just get to that stage of life where you start to become an adult and you start to have more things surrounding you. And if you can really be focused in those moments and really have a goal in mind that you want to achieve, you're going to have to make sacrifices.
So what are you now? You're 3 away from being England's record scorer, 9 away from being Tottenham's record scorer, 6 away from 200 Premier League goals. Were there times, I know you talk a lot about you get asked a lot about all the loan spells. Were there times during that where you thought maybe, you wouldn't even get a fraction of that?
Yeah, I wouldn't say I was thinking about those targets in general, but I think for sure when I was on loan, I went to Norwich and I struggled with injury, and then I went to Leicester and I struggled to play. I was on the bench a lot, and I think the Leicester one was probably the hardest one in terms of it was we was playing Championship football and I wasn't playing in the first team. And it was that stage where if I'm not playing here, how do I expect to then go on and play for Tottenham in England, which is what I really want to achieve.
But are you thinking then, when that's happening, so a Championship team aren't picking you, did you still have enough self-belief to think I can still be not just a professional footballer, but a top footballer?
Yeah, I think I was maybe a little naive but I was always, even when I went out on loan, it was never when I talk to some people now, it was like, oh yeah, we were close to selling you, or like it was to go on loan to then get brought at one of these clubs. But in my head, when I was going on loan, it was always to come back and play for Tottenham. There was nothing else in that I thought of. It was always just a stepping stone. So I guess maybe just having a bit of naivety and just thinking like that allowed me to not kind of overthink things. Even when I wasn't playing, it was like, okay, well, I'm going back to Tottenham at the end of the year, and I'll make sure that I'll push as much as I can, and that's kind of what really changed for me. The next season after that Leicester one, there was a chance to go on loan again, and I kind of said to the club that I wanted to stay and really fight for my place, because I felt like it was a time in my career where if I kept just doing the same thing, I was going to struggle to play for Tottenham. So I kind of said, look, I'll stay, I'll train with the first team, even if I'm not going to play, I'm going to prove that I'm good enough to play at this level, and worked really hard, and just waited for the opportunity, and thankfully it come towards the end of that year.
Even if we look at someone, like I think a lot of people would look at you and think, yeah, he's mentally tough, how important is a network, and who are your people when you have a bad run of form or an injury, whatever it may be, a big defeat, who picks you up? Yeah,
so I'm really lucky, and I know not everyone has a lot of people around them who they can really trust. I've got my parents, my brother, my wife. I've got probably 3 or 4 close friends who...
Do you talk about it, or do you like to be left alone?
No, I talk about it. I've probably more so over the last few years than before. I was always maybe someone who just dealt with it on my own, and I talked to obviously my wife and my parents, but I think as I've got older and learned more about sport and mental health, and I think it is really important to talk to people, and just sometimes, even if you're just letting stuff off your chest and they're just listening, and they don't really, even if they don't say much after, it's just more that you get to release some of your tension and release some of your thoughts, and I think that's a really important part, and that's why, like I said, I'm lucky that I have those people. I know not everyone has that, but yeah, I'd really advise anyone to try and find, even if it's just one person they can talk to, just to let things off their mind, just say things out loud, and I really do feel like that helps.
Do you think it's made you like a happier person, and maybe even just by a little 1% a better player talking?
Yeah, I think so. I think for sure it's helped me deal with stuff quicker. Of course, in football, in my life, there's always going to be ups and downs. You're going to have one great game, and you're going to have a bad game, and maybe before where I was a bit more closed, it would take me longer to kind of let go of the bad moments, whereas now I feel like, especially playing every 3-4 days, you ain't got time to do that, because if you do keep hold of stuff, it can then affect you for a week, maybe 2 weeks, and that can be 4 or 5 games. So I feel like trying to get it off my mind as quick as possible and trying to move on as quick as possible has helped me to be more consistent over a season where there's going to be highs and lows.
So how do you deal with defeat? 'Cause it's quite interesting for me. I spoke to you, I mean, people won't know, but I spoke to you after the game against Liverpool last night. We're here sort of 12 hours later, whatever it is, and I can already sense a shift in you, like you've had to sort of park Liverpool and move on. So just talk to us a little bit about that, about how you deal with defeat,
Yeah, I think,
especially the big ones.
Yeah, I think it hurts. Like, I'm sitting here today and like I'm still thinking about the game. I'm still thinking about what I could have done better, what the team could have done better. So yeah, it never just goes away where it's out of your mind and you forgot about it. But whether we like it or not, we've got another game in 2 days, and you have to be able to just move on. After this, we'll go and have a meeting about the game, and I guess that's more of the closure. Once we've watched it back and we've really kind of dissected it, and we can see, okay, we've done this well, we didn't do this well. That's when I guess that chapter closes. Yeah, stuff like this is never easy after a loss, I'll be honest. And but whether we
did you wake up this morning and think, oh my God?
I wouldn't say that, but it's hard, you know. But it's part and parcel of our sport now, and I think you do have to be able to deal with that. You know, there's times when you lose, and you don't want to do the post-match interviews, and you don't want to do.
I noticed.
And there's so much emotion, yeah. but we're humans at the end of the day, and when we lose, it affects us, and we're really. But I think the more experienced and the more mature you become, you have to be able to take the good with the bad, and it's not just doing interviews whenever you score or win. You have to kind of take it on the chin sometimes when they don't go your way as well. And I guess that's all. And I'm still learning in that aspect, and I guess that's part of every player's growth to the very top.
I know he's Arsenal, but I always thought it was a nice turn of phrase. Arsene Wenger said, every defeat is a scar on the heart. And is that true particularly of the big ones? I'm thinking Champions League final of the Euros. Obviously you move on to an extent, but they never leave you, do they?
No, they never. You always, every now and then, would pop up in your head, and
like what if?
Yeah, always what if, and that's just part of sport. That's just when you come so close to achieving a lot of your dreams, and you just don't quite get there. There's always going to be thinking about, I could have done that better, I should have done this or should have done that, and that's normal, you know. That's just part of it. But I think the most important thing is you don't let that affect you for then the future as well, because there's still opportunities to achieve everything you want to achieve and I want to achieve, and the only way to do that is not to dwell on the past, is to look forward to the future and make sure I'm doing everything I can to try and be in those situations again. But yeah, 100%, the losses are always you remember the tough losses more than the best wins. That
burning desire you've got for team trophies to go with the individual stuff, is that burning brighter and brighter as the seasons go by?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I've been close on many occasions now for Tottenham and with England, and I think the closer you get, it just gives you that more fire in the belly to be back and achieve what you almost just missed out on. You know, the Euros for England was a penalty shootout, and you're 1 or 2 kicks away from winning one of the biggest trophies ever and creating some major history in our country. And so yeah, of course, when you fall short, it's that burning desire to have that opportunity again, and to make sure if it comes around, I'll be ready to take it. So yeah, we have that opportunity with the World Cup for England. Obviously, that's the next trophy I'll be able to win, and my mind's on trying to achieve that.
So, how far would a World Cup go towards offsetting some of the disappointment? If you could pick one, it's the one, isn't it?
I think the World Cup's the biggest trophy in football without a doubt, and yeah, if we win that for sure, it'll ease some of the other losses. But like I said, I think the losses always stay with you. I think whenever you fail in something that you want to do, it always just leaves that thought in your head of, could I have done more, or I wish I'd done this or done that. So, but for sure, if we win the World Cup, I'm not going to be sad at all.
So, I'm not obviously focusing on your club stuff and your Tottenham stuff now, but will you go to the World Cup thinking, win it, Or is it more about the process? Do you not? Is it better not to think about that end goal?
No, I think we have to believe we can win it. I think I look back at England 10, 15 years ago. It's almost we were scared to say we wanted to win it. And I think one of the big shifts that we've made over the last 4 or 5 years with Gareth is not being afraid to say that, look, we're going to this tournament to win it because we believe we can. It would be wrong to think otherwise. What's the point of going to a World Cup and not believing that you can bring the trophy home? So, but I think we're also smart enough to know that it's going to be a really difficult tournament, and it's not going to. We're not saying we're going to win it, just saying, oh yeah, we're one of the favourites, we should win. Like, it's going to be tough, and we're going to have to work extremely hard. We're going to have a little bit of luck. We're going to have a lot of things go our way to achieve that. But yeah, I think it's important not to be afraid to say that that's what we're going to do.
The team had built up a lot of momentum over 2 major tournaments. It just feels like that's halted a little bit in the last 6-7 months. Do you feel like you can gather it back quickly with just a fast start in that first game?
Yeah, I think the first game is really important for sure. But I think also, of course, it hasn't been the greatest period in a long time for England since probably Gareth took charge. We haven't had a spell like we've had. But in a way, before a major tournament, that can be a really good thing because it allows you not to be carried away, not to get carried away even with the media, with the press. Of course, I feel like if we won every game leading up to this tournament, it would have been, we're guaranteed to win it, we're going to win it, and that can come with a different pressure. And in a way, it's kind of been a good eye-opener for a lot of things. And yeah, look, we feel like being judged on major tournaments is the main thing, and the last 2 that we've had have been good. And yeah, we have a good confidence within ourselves that we can go and have a great tournament in Qatar.
We've talked a lot about mentality. At a major tournament, you're away from home for a long time. Things like penalty shootouts, obviously. What are the mental challenges of a major tournament?
Yeah, I think the major tournament probably tests you the most in terms of definitely the high pressure. I think playing for England is always high pressure, but in a major tournament, there's always that added incentive. And of course, there's probably going to be a penalty shootout. You know, you look at the record of major tournaments and how far teams that get to the final normally have to win at least 1 penalty shootout, so they're always high pressure moments. The mentality of being away from home, being in camp for 5-6 weeks. This one's fairly quick because obviously it's during the season. Normally you're away 4 or 5 weeks before the tournament, and then you're away 4 or 5 weeks in the tournament. So it's a long period of time where you're just, you're out your comfort zone. But yeah, I guess that's what separates the top nations and the winning nations from the others, is who can deal with that the best.
And last question then, how do you feel physically going into the tournament? Because it's not at the end of a long season like it would normally be, but you have been playing every game and it has been an intense period.
Yeah, it's been an intense period, but I think for sure I'd rather be going into it playing loads of games where you feel match fit. Sometimes after the season in the summer, you have a break and then you have to kind of gear back up to play, and you haven't played a lot of games in that.
Do you think rolling into it might actually help?
I think rolling into it can help. I mean, we're used to playing a load of games at this stage in the season. Obviously the change in weather might help as well, not having the cold weather, being able to be in a bit more heat when normally you're suffering with coughs and colds and things like that. So yeah, it can definitely help us, but yeah, I think as long as you manage it well and you recover well, I spoke after the game, recovery is the most important thing for, I think, any player in this period. Of course, you can try and train as much as you can, but the bottom line is you need to be ready to have all your energy ready for the game, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Good luck, thanks for your time. Go win it.
Cheers, thank you.